Hey, how's it going everyone? NuttyNu here today, and we're gonna be talking about the A7R3 and how to get the best settings for car photography, and this will involve most likely doing car roller shots. So what a roller shot is a shot of a car driving down the road or down the highway and taking a photo of it while it's driving, so while it's in action. So I'm going to tell you guys what's the best setting or the best settings that I have found on my A7R3 that I use to do all my car shoots and stuff like that. So let's dig right into it. What I have here is the A7R3 with the small rich K. You can't really see it, but I'm using the 1635 G Master lens. This is my go-to lens for video and photo. So the reason why we choose a zoom lens is because it gives us the flexibility to zoom in and out. So I can do 16 mil to 35 mil depending on how far the car is. So make sure you have a lens around that focal length. The 24-70 is a nice lens too. Let's jump right into it. So what I like to shoot in is, I'm gonna tell you guys all my settings and why I do it. I like to shoot in manual, so make sure you have control everything. And I also like to shoot with, let's talk about my three main things. ISO, always keep your ISO to the lowest as possible. So try to keep it at 100. Your f-stop, now this is really important guys. Your f-stop does not matter, so don't try to shoot fast. When I first started shooting car photography or car rollers, I was trying to shoot fast, meaning I was trying to keep my aperture like wide open at 2.8, which is the craziest mistake ever. Don't do that. You actually want your aperture to be like around f8 or above, so the car is in focus. Because if you shoot around like f2.8 and you're focusing on like the headlight, well, guess what? The tail light might be out of focus or might be blurred out because you're shooting such a wide open at 2.8. Whereas if you're shooting at like f8 or f11, the whole car will be in focus. So when it comes to aperture, try to shoot around like f8 or f11 or even above that, because depth of field does not matter anymore when you're shooting cars. So don't try to think about like shooting portrait where depth of field is nice. When it comes to car rollers, depth of field doesn't matter. So shoot at a high aperture. And then the next most important thing is your shutter speed. This is very important guys. A lot of people, they think that they need to shoot at a high shutter speed because they need to freeze the action. And it's not like sports or wildlife where you need to freeze the action. You don't want to freeze the action. So that's not the goal here guys. Because if you freeze the action too much, the roller shot doesn't look like a roller no more. And the car, the main thing about the car is that when you look at the wheels, if those wheels are like completely frozen where you can see the wheels, that's not good. You want those wheels to be completely blurred out, so you want to shoot at a very low shutter speed. And the general rule is that when you're shooting your subject, so let's take for example, we're shooting an STI. So if you're shooting an STI, you want the STI and yourself, so if you're in the car, the roller car, you want both of you guys to be at the same speed or approximately at the same speed, traveling at the same distance. So you don't want the STI to be doing a flyby because that won't be good for you. You want the STI and the roller car that you're in, you guys want to be like cruising together at the same speed. So because when you're cruising together at the same speed, it's almost as if you're attached together and you can shoot them, and it'll be easier for you to focus and easier for you to just shoot at a low shutter speed. So when I first started, I was shooting around like 125, and 125 is good if you're doing like anything above 60 miles per hour. But then the things that you want to get really creative, because the slower your shutter speed is, the more creative your shot is. So if your shutter speed is really slow, the wheels will be blurred out, and also the background will be blurred out. So if you're shooting and there's trees behind the car, those will be blurred out. The other general rule is that when you're shooting a car, shoot at one shutter speed. So you might want to shoot like at 125, get a few shots, and then you might want to try like 100th or 80th of a second or 60th of a second. So whenever you're shooting, don't stick with one shutter speed. Play around and really mess around and play with different shutter speed. Like when I was shooting Michael's STI, I went from like 60th of seconds, and I even got up to like 15th of a second, and one of the best shots that I shot with his car was at 1/15th of a second. And it's super crazy how I got it in focus, but I'm gonna tell you how that's possible on the Sony A7R3. So make sure you play around with the shutter speed. Those are the three things: aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. And then the next thing we have is when you're shooting manual, make sure you're shooting in RAW, don't shoot JPEG. Even if you like to shoot JPEG, shoot in RAW just in case, because with RAW you can do so much stuff, has so much information. So I never bother with JPEG. I always shoot in RAW, and then I always leave my white balance to auto. It doesn't really matter. Since I'm shooting RAW, I can always change my white balance, so I usually leave it to auto, or after we're done doing a video shoot, if it's on like some kind of preset like daylight, I'll just leave it to whatever it is, but the white balance doesn't matter. And then the other main thing is that you want to shoot in burst mode. So with the A7R3, if you click your left scroll wheel, your dry mode, or I call it burst mode. So I usually set it to high plus, and listen to this. So high plus is basically where it just like constantly just shoots. And what I'll do is I'll just focus on the car, and I'll just like boom, 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 boom. I'll just shoot away. I won't even look at the screen, or I'll look at the screen, but I'll just keep on shooting. So that's what you want to do. And then how do you focus on the car? And that's the other main important thing. So how do you focus on the car is that with the Sony A7R3, it has such amazing focus that it's just unbelievable. So here I'm going to show you guys the best focus settings. So if you go into the A7R3 and go click on your focus mode. So when you go to your focus area, you want to go to lock on AF, and they have a few options. So if you click on your scroll wheel to the right, it'll have wide, zone, and flexible spot, small, medium, and large. And what I like to choose is I like to choose flexible spot large. And what this does is, if you guys can see that little box, so your joystick, you can move it around, and for me, I like to just keep it in the center. But the nice thing about this is that, guys, when you press, so I do back button focus, so this is my back button focus. So with this dry mode, or this focus mode, what it does is that when you lock onto the car, for example, this battery here is the car. When I lock onto that, it's gonna lock onto that car. So even if I move my camera around, you guys see that? Even if I move my camera or the car is moving, it's gonna keep eyes on it. That's incredible. And this is a bad example right now because we're not shooting an actual car. But if you were actually shooting a car, let me put this plier right here. So if you guys see that plier, so if you see that plier, let's say that's the front of the car. I'll focus on it, and you guys see that box. So that box will basically keep track. So usually what happens is that when I press it, it'll make it box, and it'll box the car. And no matter where the car goes, as long as I keep my thumb on that focus button, it's gonna keep it in focus. That's what's so amazing about the A7R3. Like, I don't know how other cameras are doing it, but for the A7R3, it's super amazing, super easy, and it just keeps eyes on it. And when it does that, I can just click the shutter right away. So how amazing is that? So that's what I like to do. So let's recap. Shoot in manual, shoot in the zoom lens, keep your ISO low. Don't worry about your aperture. You actually want your aperture to be closed up, so f8 or above. And shutter speed is very important. Keep your shutter speed slower. The slower the better. Your photo will look more awesome, but at the same time you'll get a lot of shots that's blurry. So make sure you play around with the shutter speed. Start around 125 and then go up. Don't ever shoot anything above 125 because your photo will look like crap, and the photo won't look like crap, but the photo won't look real because it won't be a realer shot no more. And then white balance auto. Keep your focus area to lock on autofocus, flexible spot. Shoot in burst mode, shoot in raw, and you guys will have some amazing photos, I guarantee you guys. And also make sure to compose your shots and get different angle, get like the front of the car, the side of the car, a high shot, and go from there. And that's so that's my setup on the A7R3 for doing roller shots on cars. Hope you guys enjoy. Let me know if you guys got any questions, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.